There was once a man who lived with his wife, his small son, and his wife's parents in a small village. One day, the man needed to go to town to get some supplies. And when he told his family that, his son said, "Father, will you bring me some candy?" "Of course," said the father. And he turned to his wife and said, "Would you like me to bring you something?" She said, "Oh, yes. Yes, bring me a comb, a crescent-shaped comb. I've always wanted one of those." "I'll get it for you," he said, "if I remember. You know that sometimes I forget things." "True," she said. How can I help you remember?" And then she looked out the window and saw the moon. It was a new moon, crescent-shaped, and she said, "Look at the moon. It's exactly the shape of the comb I want you to buy for me. If you forget what it is, just look at the moon, and that will remind you." "It will," said the man. Well, the next morning, he set off in his cart with his ox for the city. It was quite a ways away, so it took him almost a week to get there. And then once there, buying the supplies that he needed, he had to see what was available. He had to check prices, compare prices, negotiate. That took almost a week, too. Finally, though, he was ready to return home. So he went to the market and he bought some candy for his son. And then he turned his attention to what his wife had asked for. Not surprisingly, he had forgotten what it was. He went up and down the aisles of the market, looking at everything, hoping that something would remind him of what she'd asked for. But a merchant saw his confusion and said, "Are you looking for something in particular?" "Yes," said the man, "but I'm not sure what it is. My wife asked me to bring her something, but I can't remember what it was." The merchant tried to be helpful. "Perhaps it was perfume," he said. "Women often ask for that." "No, it wasn't perfume," said the man. "Well, maybe a scarf or a necklace." No, neither of those." "Oh, wait, I remember something. She said that if I forgot, I should look at the moon, and that would remind me." And so the merchant and the man both turned and looked at the moon, which was, of course, now full and round. "I know the exact thing," said the merchant. And he looked through his wares and produced a disc. He said, "Look, it is round like the moon, and it shines like the moon. And the best part is that when someone looks in it, it shows the image of the person who's looking at it. It's a mirror." Now, you should know that in that day and in that place, that a mirror was something quite unusual. Very few people had even seen one, and even fewer had ever owned one. "Oh," the man said, "I'm not sure that's what she wanted, but it will be perfect. My wife is very beautiful, but whenever I tell her that, she just scoffs at my words. Maybe this will convince her." And so he paid for the mirror, and the merchant wrapped it in brown paper, and the man put it in his pack, and he headed for home. Now, it took him several days to get home, of course, but when he got home, his son ran up to him immediately and said, "Father, did you bring me the candy?" "I did," said his father, and he handed him a piece of candy. The boy began to unwrap it immediately. "And my present?" said his wife. Well, the man was going out to settle his cart and his ox. He said, "Your present is in my pack. It's wrapped in brown paper." Well, she immediately went to the pack. She took out the package. She unwrapped the paper, looked at it, and burst into tears. Her mother came over and said, "What is wrong?" She said, "Oh, my husband is unfaithful to me. Look, he has gone to the market and he has come back with a portrait of a beautiful woman." "Well, let me see that," said her mother. And she picked up the mirror. She looked at it. "You have nothing to worry about. Uh, that's not a beautiful woman. She's really not very good looking at all. In fact, I think she looks wrinkled and old." Well, she was comforting her daughter, but the boy was curious, and so he picked up the mirror too and looked at it. "Oh, look, it's another boy. Oh, wait, I think he's stolen my candy." At this, the father came over. He grabbed the mirror. He said, "Oh, a grown man like you stealing candy from children. You should be ashamed of yourself." and he raised his fist in anger. But he saw that the man in the mirror also raised his fist, and he figured he'd better strike first. So, pow! He hit the mirror, and the mirror fell to the ground and broke into many pieces. And so it was that the beautiful woman, and the old wrinkled woman, and the candy stealing boy, and the angry man all disappeared in an instant. And at that moment, the father, came back into the house, and he saw it was a chaos. His wife was crying, her mother was trying to comfort her, his son was crying, his father in law was rubbing his sore hand, and the mirror was in pieces on the ground. What happened? He said. Well, they explained everything. He smiled and shook his head ruefully. He explained what a mirror was. And they looked at the moon. They realized what had happened. Well, said the man, I will buy you another mirror the next time I go to town. And he picked up one of the shards of the mirror, and he said, but in the meantime, look at this and know that you are beautiful. In fact, whether the moon is full or crescent, you are always more beautiful than the moon.